All right, welcome back to another episode of Pop Culture POV. I'm Randomly Ronnie Jr. along with Jackie, Kellie, Mary. Hello, everybody. We're going to talk about one of our favorite rom-coms, which is called My Best Friend's Wedding. Jackie, how are you doing? Tell me why this rom-com makes a lot of sense to you, why you love it, why you think about it as one of your favorites.
I think the writing's really funny. There's a lot of good one-liners that Mary's actually a friend of mine from high school, so we've been quoting them over the years. And there's of course that iconic scene that where they're singing in the
restaurant,
fish market restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sent everyone or Ronnie and Mary this Vulture article where they say that essentially it's a musical. And I didn't realize it at the time, but now looking back at it, I was like, yeah, this is one of the reasons that I had the CD back in the day, and I played it in my car, and I loved the soundtrack. And I think that was another reason why I love this, is because the soundtrack is amazing. It's like a musical.
Kellie, were you first attracted to it right away, or did it grow like over the years? Like, was when you watched it for the first time, where you're like, this is an instant classic? How'd you feel about it?
Oh yeah, I loved it the first time I watched it. And I loved that it doesn't end the way normal rom-coms end, like who we think in the beginning is supposed to be the heroine isn't, and like she doesn't win what she wants. And it's a whole different lesson. And I really loved that about this story, because I felt like it was funny. It was real. It touched on the blurred lines of different relationships you have in your life with different people, and just how sometimes jealousy can really take over and just, kind of cloud you from what is genuine versus what you feel is just yours. And I just like that it did that in such a fun way.
I know. And Julia Roberts, she fell a lot in the movie too.
Yes,
so that was unnecessarily amount of times, but it worked. Mary, you do a podcast. It's called The Watcher Diaries. Real quick, tell me what that's about. And then secondly, talk to me about genre, because The Watcher Diaries is a specific genre. Tell me what you think makes the rom-com genre so special.
Okay, so super quick, I co-host along with my friend Froggy, The Watcher's Diaries. It is a Buffyverse podcast covering everything from the movie to the TV show, books, comics. If it has Buffy in it, we'll talk about it. Basically, if it has vampires in it, we'll talk about it. So if you guys like that kind of thing, check us out.
Yeah.
In genre, okay, so the rom-coms, I've heard a really good description of romantic comedies, especially like the Hallmark ones and stuff, that they're like Disney movies for adults. They just make you feel like, they make you feel warm and fuzzy, and they've got like great musical moments like this one does. And a lot of the romantic comedies of this time in the early 2000s did put random musical numbers in the middle of them. And, you're rooting for these people. And in this one, like we said, it kind of turns the genre on its head, which is something we love to talk about, because the very idea of Buffy was the little girl who's probably going to get killed is the hero of the story. So especially this movie, where it turns the whole idea of the rom-com, because the whole time you're like, yeah, he's going to end up with this person, doesn't end up with that person. And I think that's what like truly makes this movie amazing. But yeah, romantic comedies, they're just happy and fun, and they make you feel good.
Yeah, especially like you noted in this time, there was a bunch of them at the time. I almost feel like they've slowed down for some degree. Like we don't get a lot of them anymore. Everything is a reboot. But I liked them.
There's a lot of reboots, but there's also a lot of because of the pandemic, the way that the budgets work out, a lot of them are going straight to streaming. And depending on who has what streaming platform, you might not have heard of them, or you might not see them. So I think that's another issue of the time, is because of the pandemic and the way the budgets work out. Some rom-com were back in the day, it would be in the theater, it would be, advertised everywhere. The one that's advertised everywhere right now is Marry Me, with Ronnie's favorite J-Lo.
Which I have watched already. Yes.
Oh, I did too.
I watched it.
I'm rating it high. The beginning is an interesting premise that you're going to have to navigate through, but if you could suspend that disbelief, once you get right into not the middle, but like close to the middle, you're kind of thinking, wow, that's a really cute moment. And you do think, like, My Best Friend's Wedding, is it going to play long term? And I think it is. Yeah, that's my favorite, Jackie. She's my favorite.
I know she's your favorite, but that has a big star power. So it was easy to get a lot of advertising money behind that. Whereas there are other rom-coms out but they're like kind of hidden on streaming services.
Yeah. Too much content, not enough people to consume it, I suppose. What is it about this movie that tickles you guys? Like, I will say for me, it wasn't that it was an instant classic, but it to me was something that even the last couple of years, I was like, you know what? That movie was really, really good. It turns into anytime I turn on the TV and put that movie on, I'm going to feel good. And I don't think that I thought that initially. Even when it came out, I was like, my best friend's wedding. Like this scene, what, like, oh God, and excuse me for being the male who says, come on, lady, but at the same time, I just never got it at the beginning. And it's really the last couple of years that I'm like, this movie has everything. I mean, including, like you said, music, the cute moments, everyone, her not winning, is definitely different. So were you guys into it immediately, or did this grow on you?
Definitely immediately.
Yeah.
I think for me, yes, immediately, but I do think there's also a grow on you thing. There's some movies that have such great lines and great moments that the more you watch them, the more fond of them you become. I think of Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, which is kind of a quasi rom-com, where the best friends are the real couple in the film. But that movie, I did instantly like it. But as the years went on, there were other things that I discovered about it, or there are lines that I would quote over and over. And I feel the same way with this film, where I instantly liked it, but then the more I watched it, the more I kind of learned about it or other aspects I liked.
I got to go to my instant favorite part of the movie. Okay. I think of this all the time and I don't even know why. It's the moment where they're kind of understanding each other a little bit better. I believe they're on Lake Michigan. They're on the boat and they're kind of, speaking and getting very close to this moment. And just the fact that they say it's something along the line of that dialogue, like it's this moment or it'll pass you by. And the pass you by moment was just done so well as far as on film. That's something that I always, anytime I'm in not necessarily even a relationship aspect, but a life, not life changing, but a choice making moment, I'm like, you gotta now or never, because literally if Jules would have made a little bit of a proclamation, the whole story could have changed, and she didn't. I don't know why she didn't. Was she being selfless in that way? Either way, it didn't matter to me. What mattered to me is that she lost her chance, and I think of that quite a bit. I don't know why. I thought it was done really well. Them dancing on the boat.
I did too. It was such a beautiful scene because you feel the moment pass too as you're watching it. And I thought that was so great. But it's also, she had so many chances. And I think she didn't take it then because she still was confused and didn't really realize, because, she has this best friend who I love through the whole movie that kind of keeps humbling her about it and keeps calling her out about all these things in such a funny way, and is trying to keep her on track and trying to and asking her flat out, do you really love him or do you want to win? What are you doing?
Oh,
and I love the consistency of that through the whole movie. Even when he gets into it and plays around and all of that, it was just such a great friendship.
So
Kellie, I completely agree with you, because I feel like, that the moment on the boat kind of culminates all of the missed moments that she's had. We reference them before, from action before the film even started, because he was like, oh, we could have dated then, or we, dated for a short time and then it didn't work out. So, she's had all of these missed moments, where Kimmy is a different character because she just puts her whole heart and soul into everything.
And how about it for Kimmy being she was like 20 years old and she was dressed like she was 45. I mean, you gotta love the 90s movies for that alone.
Mary okay, so there's a character on Buffy who dresses like that, and Mary is talking about that all the time. You want to
why does she look like she's going to the school to meet with the principal about her son? She does not look like she's going to class. But yeah, Kimmy's supposed to be like a 19-year-old junior in college, and she looks like she's dressed just like her mom.
Yeah. It might have also been the influence of just the astute, world that she comes from. Maybe that's why they did it. But you're right, Jacque. The openness is something that we all have to look at. Sometimes we're so particular as people, And if we're open, we can maybe have a nicer life really sometimes. But Jules was really trying to win. I never thought about that. But yeah, that was like the thing. Was it love, or was it trying to be the most desired? So it is a push and pull of like, what do you want to do, you know, with your romantic interest and everything that you do. I just love the
Have you ever
movies.
been in a situation like that?
Huh?
Have you ever been in a situation like that where you've had that push and pull trying to figure it out?
I think everyone has, to many, many degrees, and maybe that's why this movie it relates, you know, so many years later. Some movies are going to relate years later, and then all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, it didn't age well. But this movie doesn't do that. This movie plays more into my day-to-day life and those big decisions. Jacque, you had something too?
Yeah, I think part of it that also makes it appealing is when you're in a relationship with someone, you're not just balancing whether or not you love them, but you're also balancing like, will your lives work together? And that's another through line here, where Jules has this amazing career as a food critic, and she she wouldn't be willing to travel with, she kind of tells him that Michael, I forget his name, the character.
Yeah,
Michael.
She tells Michael that his job is basically dumb, which is like, you know, to tell your partner that, like, you wouldn't want to be with someone who thinks your job is stupid. And then she thinks this traveling, she doesn't like it. So, you know, she wants to be in New York. She has a very set lifestyle. And Kimmy does say, I want to have my job. I want to finish college. I want to have these dreams. But she's kind of willing to go along with him on his career journey before hers. Sometimes it shows that sometimes you have to make certain sacrifices, or you have to see where you mesh in there. Because if you have one person that says, I want to travel everywhere and this is like my priority, and the other person doesn't have that as a priority, that's going to create a problem in your relationship.
Maybe I should take notes, because I'm more like Jules. I want it all my way. I want where I want to live. We're going to live.
But that's the thing, is like, you can find your person who that meshes with, you know. So maybe you find someone who's a little bit more like, wherever I go is fine.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just about matching those kind of personality things. And so Jules is more like, I'm the boss. This is my job. This is how I want it. So she would have to be with someone who's okay. Like, she would actually have to be with someone who's more like a Kimmy, who's like, okay, I'm willing to kind of go along with that.
You know what personality trait I loved of Jules is her conniving ways. And she's at the bar and she figures, why don't I find a way to make Kimmy look stupid? I'm going to make her do karaoke. And lo and behold, Kimmy becomes, it's like that. I don't know if you guys have, yeah, you do that sometimes. You're like, I mean, yeah, you have that deviant little situation where you're like, I'm gonna get one over on somebody, and it all hurts you in the long run. Michael only loved her more, but it was such a good moment. That karaoke scene was definitely up there for me.
Oh yeah, that was a great scene. And it showed how she was trying to be mean, but she ended up actually having everyone in the bar love her. And it became such a sweet moment between the two of them, because it was so cringy and embarrassing, but that's what made it better. And those are the things that she doesn't see. And watching her, like, her eyes open, because she is so cut off. Like, this is the way life is going to be. This is the way everything is. And she's now seeing that it's not always so black and white or so cut and dry. And it's when she sits there and looks at it, and she kind of is just like, you know,
she does have to take the L, and you feel it too. Like, you feel it by watching her, you know. She lightly closes her eyes and shakes her head and does a light smile, and it's like, you know, a frustration, because, you know, she knew she shouldn't have been finagling like that. So really, you do have to take that L, and you have to really see what's actually happening. And it's hard too, because what is that like when you're trying to get a connection with Michael, but then you also want to see him happy because he is your best friend? That's actually a weird connection too.
Well, I argue that she doesn't necessarily want to see him happy, because she's thinking about herself the whole time.
Right.
But, you know, it's funny you mentioned that moment where she has to take the L. In the Vulture article, they said that because Julia Roberts was leaning into being mean for this character, because she at the time was America's sweetheart. So she was really enjoying getting to play this mean character. She wanted to do this scene where she ends up still making fun of Kimmy after the scene is over. And they had shot a bunch of takes, thought it didn't work, and then said, just do one take where you just kind of accept that this is the situation. And that's the take that they kept, and the one that Julia Roberts did not want.
And that was the one we felt so much as a viewer.
Mhm.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Switching topics for 1 second. Everyone, please contribute to this sentence. Kellie and I talked about this on our podcast that we have, Difficult Podcasters, but I want a little bit more. What's his name? Dermot Mulroney has aged beautifully. Thoughts, everybody, because I don't even think at the time he was what he is now. Mary, let me hear what you think of good old Dermot.
He's definitely, like, he was attractive back then and he was cute and I loved Michael. But then you see him on like New Girl and the Christmas movie he just did, where he actually now plays like the dad. And
Mary,
is
I love
total-
that you've seen some obscure Christmas movie that Dermot Mulroney is in.
Okay, you know what? We like to go through the Amazon Prime menu and find weird movies.
I love
But
it.
he has achieved Silver Fox status.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Did you see him on that murder show with I can't think of the name of it. It was a Fox show, but he was a kind of a bad guy, but he was hot.
Yeah.
Hotter in
See,
that
no
show.
one was saying that back when this movie came out. It's so interesting, but now people are saying that. So
See, I thought he was handsome when the movie
Yeah.
came out. I thought he was. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I think
But you
he's
also
been
have to
handsome the whole
remember-
time.
They then put him next to Rupert Everett. And who's
Yeah,
attractive when put next to Rupert Everett?
Mhm.
Yeah, Rupert Everett, like at the time, was like chef's kiss gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I even liked everything about it. You mentioned how George held her accountable, which was really great. And I liked the way he was rough on her when he needed to be, but he swept in to help her and be there for her. Although he was not going to let it be known if she did that lie. She did that evil lie saying, by the way, me and George are getting married.
You know, like, I have a mini rant about this because, first off, this man is an editor. He has like his whole life going for him. He's being interrupted on all of his like daily things that he's trying to like do. He's at a dinner, he's being interrupted. He's at a library reading and he's being interrupted. And I'm like, this poor man is just trying to live his best life and he's being interrupted all the time by Julia Roberts. So the one moment that I really love is when, right after she pretends that he's her fiance and they go into the church to tell Kimmy, Jules tells him, okay, play it understated. And then he just completely
So
overblows it. And I'm like, good for him for doing it this way, because at this point, I would have done that too from being so annoyed.
I love how he took every opportunity to embarrass her and put make her so uncomfortable, talking about the time that they first met that leads into our favorite singing moment.
Yeah.
But just like talking about her outfit and what she was wearing and where she, like, it's just so ridiculous, but amazing at the same time.
I love the way she was squirming. She's like, George is my editor. And then she wanted to move on. He's like, oh no, honey buns.
We met at a mental institution.
Yeah.
With a fake Dionne Warwick.
He just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And they were all so interested too.
I feel like Rupert, I feel like the casting here was very good, because I don't know that at the time there would have been another actor who could have sold this as much. He's so effortless in doing this.
Yeah, and I like, as far as like back then too, like it was a gay character, but it had a lot of heart, and I felt like it was done well. I really do appreciate the way that it was done, and it all culminated at the end with their scene where they're dancing at the wedding, and even that was really cute. Just so damn good, you guys. I loved it.
That is my absolute favorite scene, where he calls her at the reception.
Yeah. Did I tell you my dress was lavender?
Well, and then the supporting cast is so great too. There's such great people, down to the bellhop. I mean, it's Paul Giamatti. It's like the bellhop.
I had forgotten that Paul.
Yeah.
I was like, Emmy award-winning Paul Giamatti is the bellhop. I forgot.
Yeah, he's got like 2 minutes, but it's like watching her breaking down after what she did and how she can't fix it, and she's like wallowing in like the horrible underhanded thing she just did, and that little moment I thought was so touching, even though it was so nothing.
Yeah.
But they even like outplayed that. But her aunts were hilarious. Rachel Griffiths and Carrie Preston. The best ever. What were they? Vengeful sluts? Is that what they called?
Yes.
Something.
And the ice sculpture.
The girl.
Oh my God, the
on
ice sculpture. I had forgotten about that when I watched
when she
it.
stuck to the ice sculpture. But even the parents, like, they're, the time that they had on screen was so great. Just, everybody singing, just everybody getting into it, and just watching all these genuine personalities. Like, come on. It's just, I think overall it was such a great collection of people.
It was good to see all that chaos because you have, this big regal wedding, but then so much is going wrong. Yes, from the ice sculpture situation to, you've got Michael chasing Kimmy and then Jules chasing Michael, and then it's being told like, well, who's chasing you, Jules? That's your answer right there. And then the song what the world needs now is love is playing. I mean, and just seeing like a bunch of great shots through Chicago. I absolutely loved it. Kimmy
Bathroom scene, yes.
In the bathroom. And all the women in the bathroom were just like, oh, she did what on your wedding day?
We have to have that moment though, because up until this point, it's like we have that iconic scene where Kimmy's saying, I could be Jello, that's one of my favorite lines in like movie history ever, because she's like, no, creme brulee could never be Jello. So we're pushing Kimmy up to be this perfect creature. And here we show her like having these real breakdown emotions where she had realized that Jules was sabotaging her, but she was just kind of like trying to smooth it over and let it be because she was the one who was winning anyway.
Yeah.
Well, and I think she always knew that was going to be the case, which is why she had her as the maid of honor in the first place. And which, Jules says as much. It's like, you never trusted me. That's why you wanted me here. Like, why would I be your maid of honor? You wanted to keep me close to watch what was happening. And she's like, yeah, and I was right. Look at what you're doing.
Damn.
And she was able to confront her in that real way, and it puts everything into perspective on both sides. And I thought that was just like such a powerful thing to see.
Yeah. I liked it. I don't want to see a reboot. I think one movie is good enough.
Keep it
as is, and it was done perfectly. It makes you feel good. Every time I watch it, I love one more little nugget there each and every time. Like I said, the part where it's like, oh, the person that you're in love with is right under your nose. They're talking about us, darling. It just is so good, and every little bit of it is a special part of the movie. And those movies are good. You work 9 to 5, everything's so tiring in your normal life. It's good to escape with some just outrageous comedy with a little bit of romance.
Have a mini rant though about the fact that the dad is like, go send my emails for me. Who's like, I can't push send on my emails. I just saved a bunch of them, so I need my assistant to
I'm glad you said that. I was questioning that too when I first watched it. I was like, what am I not getting? Is he like is it because of his stature of his career that like you don't send your own emails at that level?
I have been an assistant and I have an assistant. I have never I have never gone into my boss's computer to send emails. Like, I've sent emails where they have been on behalf of my boss, but I have never actually gone into their computer and been like, oh, well, so-and-so has a bunch of saved emails, gotta send these out.
But it's also like back in the day when you had a secretary that would type out your letters for you, like type out your notes before there was email. I think it's like in that vein. And I've like had bosses that they've had their assistant, hey, can you go send an email for me from my account? Just go like write this up, and they like dictate what they want.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of like
the thing that's weird here is like he said like it was technically like he wrote them.
He drafted them.
Couldn't push the send button.
That was the one part of the movie I initially saw for the first time that I was like, what am I missing here? Like, what is the play that Jules is doing? I mean, I essentially
this man is allergic to the send button, and only his assistant can function that
Also
thing.
So interesting, that was like the most pretentious thing that they really showed.
Yeah.
Like, they had the family be for the status that we see them and the lavish lives that they live. They really didn't come across too like snooty up until like that, like little things like that was funny.
Yeah. What do you think of Mary?
Okay, since we brought up the email, I now have to add this. I love, and this happens in everything now when you look back at the 90s, she didn't even put an email address into that email. She just like types his name and his title. She's like, what was it, like, to Brian, like editor of, like, there's no email address.
Brian, editor. There we go.
It just automatically,
because these days where you can start typing a name and then it populates the email. It didn't even do that.
Yeah, I was perplexed with that whole part of the movie for a long time. So I'm glad we at least held it to the fire right now.
Everyone's confused about that part.
I was like, maybe when you're really rich and you own those Chicago White Sox, you don't have to do nothing. Can you? I need my assistant to help me breathe. Like, it made no sense to me. And
maybe
then
you got like a pseudo like contact list in there that has like everybody in the world.
Right.
All you have to do is type their name.
Yeah.
We have about 3 minutes left here. I want each of you to go around and just state what do you think that some of these characters would be doing in a world now? So what would Kimmy and Michael be doing? What would Jules, what would George be doing, or whoever else made sense to you? We'll start with Mary. What do you think they would be?
So George definitely has a super hot husband, and they've adopted like 5 puppies because George is just fabulous. He was the MVP.
Yeah.
I think Kimmy and Michael are happy, and I'd like to think that Jules eventually found someone, but I think she's now published like 8 books and is just like being a bad like
career
girl.
And then lots of men, big career. Yeah. Okay. All right. Makes sense. What do you think, Jacque?
I feel like Jules she has a big career, but she's probably been divorced several times. Like Michael is probably editor.
She was competing with Michael. Every time Michael had a kid, she had another divorce.
Yeah, exactly. And then Michael's an editor, like, who settled down eventually in Chicago with Kimmy, and they have a bunch of kids. And yes, I like George married with the puppies.
What do you think, Kellie?
Oh, I think Jules has definitely been divorced at least once, and she's still, writing. But I think she's still writing books, but still kind of looking for the Kimmy in her life.
Yeah.
And I think Michael and Kimmy are still together for sure. But I'd like to see Kimmy actually like have some sort of career too. So maybe she's like, doing some sort of executive stuff in her dad's company. What she wanted Michael to do, maybe she's doing it herself with kids.
I think
I like that.
Mm-hmm. I think Michael and Kimmy have a kid, a teenager, a daughter that is not easy to sort of, very Jules selfish ways, but they're perfect.
Anti-Jules,
anti-Jules.
Yeah, something like that is what I'm thinking. Anyways, you all, I think that My Best Friend's Wedding is the ultimate rom-com, one of them. Any last thoughts from everybody? Other than that, we will sign out for today. Mary, what do you have? I say a little prayer for you.
That's it. Yeah, there we go.
Love the lobster hands.
Yep.
Yes,
last thoughts, Kellie?
Oh, I just love it. I'm going to go watch it right now, and everyone else should too.
Yeah. And the reason we did this, Jacque and I were texting, actually, we were like, there's so many bits of content that are out online. And usually it's like a deep dive of something really negative. Not always, but there's a lot of it. So we were just kind of like, let's do something that uplifts something. Like, we're not going to talk bad about the characters. We're not going to talk bad about the movie. We're actually going to do a bit of content, a podcast that's more in the vein of uplifting something. And what better than this movie? So yeah, Julia Roberts was fantastic. And I never realized it was Julia Roberts and Jules was her name. I never realized the connection there. And imagine if she would have been mean. We wouldn't even thought of this movie anymore. We like a warm-hearted, villain. Anyway, all right. I'll talk to you all later. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Bye.
I say a little prayer for you.